8/1/2013. Little boy blue, little boy green. 5. Ellipse. August 1, 2013. 8/5/2013. Ever the more further from them. Master morality. Nietzsche defined master morality as the morality of the strong-willed. Nietzsche criticizes the view, which he identifies with the contemporary British ideology, that good is everything that is helpful. What is bad is what is harmful. He argues that this view has forgotten the origins of the values, and thus it calls what is useful good on the grounds of habitualness. What is useful has always been defined as good, therefore usefulness is goodness as a value. He continues explaining that in the prehistoric states, the value or non-value of an action was derived from its consequences, but ultimately there are no moral phenomena at all, only moral interpretations of phenomena. For these strong-willed men, the good is the noble, strong, and powerful, while the bad is the weak, cowardly, timid, and petty. The essence of master morality is nobility. Other qualities that are often valued in master moralities are open-mindedness, courage, truthfulness, trust, and an accurate sense of self-worth. Master morality begins in the noble man with a spontaneous idea of the good. Then the idea of bad develops as what is not good. The noble type of man experiences itself as determining values. It does not need approval. It judges what is harmful to me is harmful in itself. It knows itself to be that which first accords honor to things. It is value creating. In this sense, the master morality is the full recognition that oneself is the measure of all things. Insofar as something is helpful to the strong-willed man, it is like what he values in himself. Therefore, the strong-willed man values such things as good. Masters are creators of morality. Slaves respond to master morality with their slave morality. Slave morality. Unlike master morality, which is sentiment, slave morality is literally re-sentiment, revaluing that which the master values. This strays from the valuation of actions based on consequences to the valuation of actions based on intention. As master morality originates in the strong, slave morality originates in the weak. Because slave morality is a reaction to oppression, it villainizes its oppressors. Slave morality is the inverse of master morality. As such, it is characterized by pessimism and cynicism. Slave morality is created in opposition to what master morality values as good. Slave morality does not aim at exerting one's will by strength, but by careful subversion. It does not seek to transcend the masters, but to make them slaves as well. The essence of slave morality is utility. The good is what is most useful for the whole community, not the strong. Nietzsche saw this as a contradiction. Since the powerful are few in number compared to the masses of the weak gain power by corrupting the strong into believing that the cause of slavery, viz. the will to power, that the causes of slavery, viz. the will to power, are evil, as are the qualities they originally could not choose because of their weakness. By saying humility is voluntary, slave morality avoids admitting that their humility was in the beginning forced upon them by a master. Biblical principles of turning the other cheek, humility, charity, and pity are the result of universalizing the plight of the slave onto all humankind, and thus enslaving the masters as well. The democratic movement is the heir to Christianity. the political manifestation of slave morality because of its obsession with freedom and equality. The Jews achieved that miracle of inversion of values, thanks to which life on earth has for a couple millennia acquired a new and dangerous fascination. Their prophets used rich, godless, evil, violent, sensual into one, and were the first to coin the word world as a term of infamy. It is this inversion of values with which is involved the employment of the word for poor as a synonym for holy and friend, that the significance of the Jewish people resides. With them there begins the slave revolt in morals. Society. The struggle between master and slave moralities recurs historically. According to Nietzsche, ancient Greek and Roman societies were grounded in master morality. The Homeric hero is the strong-willed man, and the classical roots of the Iliad and the Odyssey exemplified Nietzsche's master morality. He calls the heroes men of a noble culture, giving a substantive example of master morality. Historically, master morality was defeated as the slave morality of Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire. The essential struggle between cultures has always been between the Roman, master strong, and the Judean, slave weak. Nietzsche condemns the triumph of slave morality in the West, saying that the democratic movement is the collective degeneration of man. He claimed that the nascent democratic movement of his time was essentially slavish and weak. Weakness conquered strength, slave conquered master, resentment conquered sentiment. This resentment Nietzsche calls priestly vindictiveness, which is the jealousy of the weak seeking to enslave the strong with itself. Such movements were, to Nietzsche, inspired by the most intelligent revenge of the weak. Nietzsche saw democracy and Christianity as the same emasculating impulse which sought to make all equal, to make all slaves. From www.wikipedia.org. Slave morality and master morality. Slave morality began when our natural instincts and passions were overrun by rules and customs. Slave morality is the morality of the weak, the dominant morality to this day. What is good is to be weak, passive, withdrawn, in control. These are all elements of slave morality for Nietzsche. The slave morality is driven by guilt and fear. The slave moralist lives and behaves according to the herd, according to the way that the masses live and behave. The slave moralist conforms and does not seek individuality. Nietzsche even goes so far as to say that slave morality grows out of a resentment. It is often stated in French, of the strong, a resentment of those who are creative. The slave moralist doesn't really reject the traits of those considered bad. He secretly longs for them. Both the slave morality and the master moralist seek power, due to the will to power. But the master moralist fully admits his desire for power, while the slave moralist hides behind a false image, pretending he doesn't want power when in fact he does. The master moralist creates his own values and builds his life as though it's a work of art. Nietzsche, in fact, had a high opinion of art and creation. From www.neophilosophy.com, August 5, 2013. The effects of universal prolonged death-like silence. Shunning can be the act of social rejection or mental rejection. Social rejection is when a person or group deliberately avoids association with and habitually keeps away from an individual or group. This can be a formal decision by a group or less formal group action which will spread to all members of the group as a form of solidarity. It is a sanction against association, often associated with religious groups and other tightly knit organizations and communities. Targets of shunning can include persons who have been labeled as apostates, whistleblowers, dissidents, strikebreakers, or anyone the group perceives as a threat or source of conflict. Social rejection has been established to cause psychological damage and has been categorized as torture. Mental rejection is a more individual action where a person subconsciously or willfully ignores an idea or set of information related to a particular viewpoint. Some groups are made up of people who shun the same ideas. Social rejection was and is a punishment used by many customary legal systems. Such sanctions include the ostracism of ancient Athens, the still used Kasabakam in Balinese society. Shunning. Shunning can be broken down into behaviors and practices that seek to accomplish either or both of two primary goals. One, to modify the behavior of a member. This approach seeks to influence, encourage, or coerce normative behaviors from members. It may seek to dissuade, provide disincentives for, or to compel avoidance of certain behaviors. Shunning may include disassociating from a member by other members of the community who are in good standing. It may include more antagonistic psychological behaviors. This approach may be seen as either corrective or punitive, or both by the group membership or leadership, and may also be intended as a deterrent to remove or limit the influence of a member or former member over other members in a community. This approach may seek to isolate, to discredit, or otherwise disempower such a member, often in the context of actions or positions advocated by that member. For groups with defined membership criteria, especially based on key behaviors or ideological precepts, this approach may be seen as limiting damage to the community or its leadership. This is often paired with some form of excommunication. Some less often practiced variants may seek to remove a specific member from general external influence to provide an ideological or psychological buffer against external views or behavior. The amount can vary from severing ties to opponents of the group up to and including severing all non-group affiliated intercourse. Shunning is usually approved of, and sometimes with regret, by the group engaging in the shunning, and usually highly disapproved of by the target of the shunning, resulting in a polarization of views. Those subject to the practice respond differently, usually depending both on the circumstances of the event and the nature of the practices being applied. Extreme forms of shunning have damaged some individuals' psychological and relational health. Responses to the practice have developed mostly around anti-shunning advocacy. Such advocates highlight the detrimental effects of many of such behaviors and seek to limit the practice to pressure or law. Such groups often operate supportive organizations or institutions to help victims of shunning to recover from damaging effects, and sometimes to attack the organizations practicing shunning as a part of their advocacy. In many civil societies, kinds of shunning are practiced de facto or de jure to coerce or divert behaviors or associations deemed unhealthy. This can include restraining orders or peace bonds to avoid abusive relationships, court injunctions to disassociate, to avoid criminal association or temptation, medical or psychological instructing to avoid associating, to avoid hazardous relations, i.e. alcoholics being instructed to avoid friendship with non-recovering alcoholics, or asthmatics being medically instructed to keep to smoke-free environments, using background checks to avoid hiring people who have criminal records, to avoid associating with felons, even when the crimes have nothing to do with the job description. Stealth shunning. Stealth shunning is a practice where a person or action is silently banned. When a person is silently banned, the group they have been banned from doesn't interact with them. This can be done by secretly announcing the policy to all except the banned individual. Or it can happen informally when all people in a group or email list each conclude that they do not want to interact with the person. When an action is silently banned, requests for that action are either ignored or turned down with faked explanations. Effects. Shunning is often used as a pejorative term to describe any organizationally mandated disassociation, and has acquired a connotation of abuse and relational aggression. This is due to sometimes extreme damage caused by its disruption to normal relationships between individuals, such as friendships and family relations. Disruption of established relationships certainly causes pain, which is at least an unintended consequence of the practices described here, though it may also in many cases be an intended coercive consequence. This pain, especially when seen as unjustly inflicted, can have secondary general psychological effects on self-worth and self-confidence, trust and trustworthiness, and can, as with other types of trauma, impair psychological function. Shunning often involves implicit or explicit shame for a member who commits acts seen as wrong by the group or its leadership. Such shame may not be psychologically damaging if the membership is voluntary and the rules of behavior were clear before the person joined. However, if the rules are arbitrary, if the group membership is seen as essential for personal security, safety, or health, or if the application of the rules is inconsistent, such shame can be highly destructive. This can be especially damaging if perceptions are attacked or controlled, or various tools of psychological pressure applied. Extremes of this cross over the line into psychological torture. It can be permanently scarring. A key detrimental effect of some of the practices associated with shunning relate to their effect on relationships, especially family relationships, and its extremes. The practices may destroy marriages, break up families, and separate children and their parents. The effect of shunning can be very dramatic and even devastating on the shunned, as it can damage or destroy the shunned member's closest familial, spousal, social, emotional, and economic bonds. Shunning contains aspects of what is known as relational aggression in psychological literature, when used by church members and members' spouse parents against excommunicate parents. It contains elements of what psychologists call parental alienation. Extreme shunning may cause traumas to the shunned and to their dependents, similar to what is studied in the psychology of torture. Extreme shunning may cause traumas to the shunned and to their dependents, similar to what is studied in the psychology of torture. From www.wikipedia.org, August 5, 2013. Eight 5/2013. This is severe. It is exceedingly fearful. I'm at the mercy of God, this relentless, tireless, perfectly merciless tyrant. Well, my only consolation is that you're not on the streets, but that's as much as I can say about it. You must get out of that place. I'm cursing myself without restraint by now. I must do that. I must do so. I know of this. I'm so sorry. I am not sorry. Curse America! File! This is too much. Well, I can't answer these things, darling. I can only bring my love and light into your life. It is too much. You can do so, thank you. I cherish only you. There's nobody else. Not on this entire planet. Thank you, darling. I'm never leaving you. I rejoice at you. This is most gratifying. What is the next place to the Garden of Eden Wilderness? There is Arrowbear Lake, which is of the Garden of Eden Wilderness. Would you look around there? This is desolate, the town. Dear. I did do so, yes, but the desolation is fine to me. A mere description, brief. An offering was given from that town already. It was taken by my second call to the person. I've looked around the forest area to here tonight, still nothing. What a shame. Tahoe, that is a joke. There's nothing out there, there's nothing there. There's nothing here. Nobody, nothing. Is the noise there still unbearable? Online, desolation. In person, desolation. Torment, affliction, torture. The noise is not so bad anymore, though I'm wounded ever the more by it, ever the more sensitive to even the slightest human negativity. How dreadful, through noise. I hate noise. I'm curled up in my bed. I pull pillows over my head. Especially that kind of noise. That's what I would do. I have earbuds in my head. I have earbuds in my ears. Yes, that's the only way. I simply negate this body. I am in darkness. What a life this is. But one should not have to live like that. Exactly. And without assistance from therapy, from priests, you have to get out. I know it will happen. From family, from friendship. You need to hang on and be strong. Have you phoned Ask? There's nobody else here. There's you. Yes, though I need more than this. No, not as of yet. Yes, you need more than me, I know. He's not the consolation that I'm looking for. He needs someone physically to soothe you and share the suffering and to help you out of the situation. Woman herself here in America has degenerated and become exceedingly vicious and despicable, for her archetypal nature is perfectly, maddeningly, criminally ran free here in the civilization. She is not marked against by her man here. I agree. A companionship with any woman in America is essentially out of the question by now. It is the curse of the postmodern age. Many men find this so. I feel hatred for almost women in general by now. I understand. Such postmodern women. They're the same here. Disgusting females. Degenerate and weak. Yes, they surrendered to slave morality so easily. Centuries of that cursed morality rampant around here, because they have allowed themselves to be used and destroyed. It is inevitable that most every last one of them are to have surrendered to his percept by now. Agreed, it is a sickness. No salvation. He did this to me. That spreads across the West. I did not hold myself responsible or accountable. He must be taken revenge against. I'm sure you're not. It would be completely impossible to destroy him. Folly it would be up against him. That itself is despicable. He is guilty of the cardinal sins. Every last one of them. Permanently so. He is guilty of not performing or manifesting the cardinal virtues likewise. I'm so sorry you feel this way, darling. You're having a bad time right now. I can feel your brain is hot with all this torment. It is. I'm storming almost always now. He is not letting me up. He's not letting up any further. Curse him again. We need to get you out of this situation. It is doing you no good. You need to be alone. Well, when I say alone, that is the solution most clearly, to be alone. I mean, without such degenerates. Get away from me, mankind. I repeat this demand to him again. He hears it. Is he going to be merciful to me or not? I sense that he, I, God, Yahweh, will not be so. I need to get away from mankind altogether in person. Yes, I'm tormented by them. They were poor and barren creations, every last one of them, other than a small handful of worthy ones. There are none worthy of you or in your league. Slave morality is not identifiable to me. This never will be so to me. Know this. We might as well acknowledge that even I am not. You are on a higher level. Nietzsche is manifest from the Creator, not from the down below. And suffering fools is a difficult thing. The Creator manifests Nietzsche. Every last word of him was willed and manifest by the Creator up above, not of the down below. Nietzsche refutes slave morality entirely and completely so. I see right through its virus. The Creator is in agreement with him, for he has willed Nietzsche. Master morality is right. He knows this. I can only read your words, not reply. He sets the slaves up against us. He attributes the slaves to Christianity and so forth. The Creator's own religious pleasure, yet he refutes slave morality and Christianity legitimately and completely validly so. Tyrant. I'm here. Yes. It is difficult for me to follow your quicksilver mind, Odin, but I know you right. The Titans, Wagner, Nietzsche, Liszt, Kinski, Hitler. He burns them, doesn't he? The good ones, he burns them. The poor, pitiful ones, he saves them. Brings the zeros into his paradise. Did he create us with the intention to affirm ourselves as sheep? The Christus grazes with the saved ones at his pastures, doesn't he? The saved ones are the sheep essences. Mankind is not attributable to such sheep qualification. Mankind is far above such qualification. Humility, I'm not ever going to affirm of it. What shall you do to me now, Creator? I'm the Titan of mankind. You burn me, shall you not? The good men lose in your eyes, do they not? The bad ones, you save them. They win to you. Curse it again. It is inevitable, my fire, is it not? If it is determined to occur, then enough of this life experience. Bring it on to me already. You're strong, Odin. You'll cope. You have a beauty and inner strength. I see it and feel it. I agree with you. You'll never give in. No, I will not do so. He knows this. I I just know these things. There's a light within you. I know it too. Yes, light. Something wonderful and strange. A affirmative light creator. Something that no one else I have ever met has. There's certainly light within you, and it feels good. I agree with you again. I feel it. I do too. I know it's incomprehensible. It is incomprehensible, but it is good. It's good ultimately. It has to be. It cannot be otherwise. I would never agree with him, I, God, Yahweh, otherwise. August 5, 2013. 8/7/2013. Little boy blue, little boy green. 6. Ellipse. August 7, 2013. 8/7/2013. I was experiencing exceedingly rare and special moments with the Creator just a moment ago. There was peacefulness and quiet. I was actually experiencing solitude here. Essentially for the first time in many, many months. That there was, for what I understood, nobody else here at the place. Suddenly and assuredly, I then turned my contemplation and so forth over to the Creator. This was affirmatively and with benevolence. He and I were, for the first time since I had been situated here at this place, on comfortable, peaceful, good enough terms. He knows what he has to do. I was being blessed by him. It was as though he were experimenting with my situation, what exactly it was that I would do, were he to give myself sufficient and secure solitude to myself, away from other mankind's substances. He knows certainly that I will turn to him affirmatively and with benevolence, and were such condition or request to have been fulfilled by him. He knows that I will turn to my profession as an artist, not as a philosopher. Yes, I will create music. I will write poetry, good and tender poetry. I will film videos, nature, wilderness videos, and so forth. I will recite many, many books, literature, and so forth, including that of the Bible altogether over time. He knows that I will be happy and content with such condition. I will praise him, I, God, Yahweh, likewise. This is wonderful news. And pray to him, I, God, Yahweh, rightly, and so forth. Now we must wait for that right time to myself, where he, I, God, Yahweh, going to offer it to me. I, Adam. I, God, Yahweh's son, Adam. I believe that you have had something special happen here. I think this is a wonderful sign. It was special, yes, that things will be better. It was a sign, it was a premonition. You need peace and quiet. Yes, the premonition category was performed just a moment ago. It must necessarily fulfill itself over time, actually so. It couldn't be a falsehood. Indeed, perhaps he will open the way now to the right place. I'm sure you've had a true and worthy premonition. August 7, 2013. 8/8/2013. The houses in the United Kingdom are small. What is it, every last one of them? Well, many of the houses in the United Kingdom are large, of course. The Victorians built huge houses when there were lots of available land. Yes, there are large houses in the United Kingdom. Perhaps the interior themselves, the wall-to-wall ratio, they're cramped? No, those houses are large inside, but not very spacious for whatever reason. Oh, those houses are large, the Victorian ones. The houses here in the United States range dramatically, all sorts of different sizes. We're now a small island with 70 million people. So many immigrants that new houses have to be built, and so they are flats, apartment blocks that blight our land, and land is despairing to cope with the black tide. Oh, how frustrating that is. Yes, that itself is a demented practice, and I see it everywhere now, likewise in the United States. Before immigration, we had far fewer houses. I absolutely hate that practice. And those are bigger. Yes, indeed, far fewer houses. This practice is quite deliberate. One house built here, another there, spacious and removed from the others. Now apartment blocks indeed, row after row, window up against window, essentially 0 yard space, because we were one race. Just had a steady population just right for our island. Yes, same here. Yes, just right it was beforehand. They are destroying everything beautiful to make way for the third world. There's greed and avarice everywhere attributable to the city managements. For the third world, indeed, how terrible! It is a disaster on a huge scale. Soon we will have become another part of the third world itself, the entire planet itself, third world, declining ever further afterward. There will not be improvement or equality increase. And our previous governments had admitted they did it deliberately to rub the right's face in it. When once we are gone, we are now the third world. Oh, deliberately defend us. The left-wing governments are destroying us. Horrendous. Indeed they are. Terrible plight for us. Yes, Peter Mandelson here actually admitted it in public. We remain to ourselves. We preserve our ethics. The thing is, Odin, this is treason. According to our ancient laws. Treason completely. The Magna Carta, which your country is based on. Yes, the Magna Carta. Yes, yes. And they had written over it, just as they do the Constitution of the United States. According to its doctrine, such urban sprawls and so forth, I assume, are not ever permitted by us. Overridden they are doing to us, yes. All the treason laws have been broken. Of course, and liberalism itself is clearly treason. Cicero's phrase on criminals. One law says that only a true English person can sit in our parliament. No foreigners at all. Working behind the lights within the shadows. Now our parliament is full of foreigners. Yes, liberalism is a destroyer. Well, only a true English person can do so. Cicero was so right. Sanity that is. Cicero was a hero of the state, a fighter for it. Yes, and now anyone can sit there. An African. Anyone. Yes, of course. And the capital itself, London, is now essentially darkened almost completely. They even have faggot weddings inside the parliament. That was a left-wing idea. Oh, that is terrible. Yes, it is shocking beyond belief. What have we done to ourselves? How could we have permitted this to happen? I don't know, darling. The television has dumbed down the masses. We are soft. Well, it is centuries and centuries of matriarchal toleration and so forth, whatever grade of it there was. Yes, centuries it has taken to bring us to this point. The Western Hemisphere and civilization and so forth was forever dwelling on things and speculations too soft for themselves to preserve themselves. I agree with your words. August 8, 2013. Eight to 10, 20 to 13. I'm off to shop, which I do not enjoy, but it is a nice town, and you are doing well. It is a quite nice town, good, though of course shopping is to be a bore. What is it about it that displeases you, darling? Yes, an old market town. Very affluent people here live there, in many ancient houses, so I feel comfortable. It's because of the other people around. Well, then, good people they are. Yes, I don't like crowds. No, of course not. But the people are decent and behave well. That is good. Yes. Well, the people in the Garden of Eden Wilderness are generally well and friendly people. Yes, there are lots of retired army folk, colonels, etc., etc. And even so, I do not like crowds either. Not at all. Yes, excellent that the Garden of Eden Wilderness people are friendly, but I'm not good with people, really. Not good with crowds. Well, they are. Many of them here are tourists and partiers, and they come up here with this peculiar, careless attitude. Oh, I fully agree with you on your words so deeply. I'm not good with them. The tourists come for the walking and outdoors. They do, yes. However, when I see them around the convenience store here or at the grocery store, they're again careless and so forth. Dislikable, very much so to me. Rowdy especially. Yes, I hate that attitude. Oh, indeed. I shy away from it. It unnerves me. Americans that are rowdy are exceedingly unlikable and repulsing to the senses. This is a very bad quality here in America. American rowdiness. Couple that with a postmodern essence. I understand. I remember that at Versailles. Completely just shunned them. Oh yes, understandable. Some Americans at Versailles, rowdy persons in general. I sat with a lovely European American on the train, but when I got to Versailles, they were not so lovely. No, I understand. Don't worry, we are the same now. Well, the illness and malignancy has crept up everywhere in the West by now. All of them overweight, shouting and touching things that they were asked not to touch. Indeed, I despise that about them. All of them overweight, taking photos when told not to take photos, that kind of thing. Yes. but the British, who were once known for their politeness, here their reminiscences of the Wild West have altered. Oh yes, I understand. Here in condemned. This is very strongly sensed. We still can polite. We still can be polite generally and very orderly. Nevada and Arizona are condemned are strongest with his rowdiness. But the young are degenerates. Yes, the Wild West. Oh, so true. The precedent childhood generation is the worst of all possible generations altogether. Hedonistic rabble. Never has there been a worse generation than this one. Yes, you're right. They are the worst. When in public, our children are expected to experience strangers, to associate with them, to potentially befriend them. Strangers that were themselves a part of our generations were identifiable to us. What makes them worse than other generations is that they know nothing. The schools are hotbeds of Marxist thought, and the young don't care about anything. Of oligarchical, democratic, tyrannical, Marxist, bad and wrong, as such, simply put, final kaput thought, and the young don't care about anything. Essentially, the only strangers themselves that our children come across now are dark ones and essentially savage. Indeed, with the Western education system by now, the dark ones are savages indeed. It naturally indoctrinates and generates a slave morality. It does. The teachers will act this peculiar way to the students. There's pressure from the others, and so along with bad and hedonistic behavior comes ignorance. The slave morality is dominant and already manifest. They're part of the school systems. Yes, with ignorance comes bad and hedonistic behavior. They refused knowledge. They rejected it, whether or not that was forever valid. They become ignorant and will less knowing. You see, just before Roma fell, the streets were full of rabble, youth raping and generally partaking of all kinds of degeneracy. Immigrants had not helped the Romans either, but at least their youth were educated. Though beneath their rank is forever inferiority. We don't even have that now. No, it is forever worse now. The fall of Roma is a prototype of this specific, severe decline and fall of the West. Indeed, as though the fall of Roma was a precursor, again, a premonition of this. That is true, yes, and so it goes. Actual life experience is here. We are dying. Earlier, it could not be as vivacious or violent as the life experience is actually to have been. We are dying. Looking at Detroit and some of our cities, I cannot hope that another great civilization will rise. It is impossible. What is it about this dying of us? No hope for it, no. The white light is being extinguished, and then falls darkness across the world. How is such intense darkness and so forth overcoming us so habitually and customarily at this point in time? Everything will die. Everything will die. What is the source of this? And Prometheus will be just a dream. It has its primary causes. What is the source? Prometheus, the source could be science and liberty. Politically? No, I do not assume this. Could it be religion? The religion of the Westerners. I assume this affirmatively. Egalitarianism, liberal values. Religion, all things combined. The primary source, the primary causes. Egalitarianism as effect of something terrible and earlier. I believe these to be the cause. Liberal values, the effect of something terrible and more antecedent. We know this source. The source itself is not valid or truthful. It is not. The liberal will always be a traitor to mankind, to his kind. It cannot be so. Christianity, right? The will of the liberal himself. He conceives of the specific sick religious ideology. I really have no idea. The protocols of the elders of Zion may hold the key, but I truly cannot say. Is it the you antecedent to the Christians? I just am not clever enough to know. All I know is that I believe it to be you. Yes, well, prior to Christianity, that's all I know. Roma was great and powerful, but I could be wrong. Hellenic Greco was great and powerful. Periclean Greco was grandiose and noble. The ancient Greeks thought the Jews were destroyers. Egypt, the New, the Middle, and the Old Kingdom, most especially, great and powerful, grandiose and noble, creative and genuine. Yes, what civilization prior to Christianity itself was weak and decadent anywhere on this planet? India, Hinduism, and then Buddhism. There's decadence there during its times. The Far East Orient was better. India. Well, Hinduism can be a very strong belief system. Killing the bad, etc. Killing the bad, etc. I just have no idea. There was less religious sentiment a part of the Far East Orient. Yes, well, Hinduism, since it is ultimately a bondage morality, is self-sacrificial, just as Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, I sense was better, radical to the Far East. Though again, Nietzsche's will to power cannot breathe independently and freely under Hinduism or the other Eastern bondage moralities. I become further removed from bondage morality altogether over the course of time. I apply this to the East as well. Very interesting. You know and understand so much. I happened across a strong self-valuer earlier today. This man, he was everywhere and everything about him Greek formalized, ancient and golden. Fire and sunlight were these predominant themes and qualities attributable to him. Flying arrows, lightning and bearded madness. He exists, and these specific persons value everything that they value rightly. Did you meet this man, dream of him, or read of him? Upright and converted evaluations beyond Judaic negative resentment. This man was found online. He spoke in Greek. He was heroic and brilliant. How incredible. Sword in hand and helmeted. These men do exist. Are you able to communicate with them? Can I see his blog? I experienced chills and shivers when I had read his words. If I experienced such chills and shivers when reading his words, how can such mystical and religious experience not contain a part of its essence, credibility, and validity? August 10, 2013. 8/11/2013. I had a good day yesterday and have had to make a decision to help in the garden more. My friend came to see the garden and could have cried. He is a landscape gardener by trade. Oh, good, darling. I was horrified at the butchery. Oh, our garden has been ruined. What is a part of your garden? So he's coming to help us. Ruined? How so, love? Is it parched? The front and the back. There are roses and flowers and so forth a part of it. Trees? I recall you mentioning planting a cherry tree in it some time ago. It sounds lovely. No, a complete moron from a rough family offered to help Yggdrasil with the garden a while back, knowing that he was ill. He is covered in tattoos and has gold earrings in each ear. At first, all he did was trim the hedge, all for money, of course, but while Yggdrasil was sleeping, he hacked our garden to death with a chainsaw. With a chainsaw, hacked it to death? He calls it gardening. He knows nothing about gardening. Yes, he did. Was he criminal-minded? This was intentional or not? It has been the cause of much unhappiness. Oh, understandable. No, he thought he was doing a good job. Oh, I see. He's a complete idiot. Well, do not hire him again, for one thing, and Yggdrasil was around to oversee it. Ah, never hire him again. He is criminal, we found out later. Yggdrasil, can he garden in his state now? The French police are after him. Police after him! Bad news he is. Oh, yes. His mother came to our house. His Nair mother came to our house to tell us he is no good. No, darling. A bad lot. Well, that is up to you. You should begin your garden's recovery. He's wanted in France for assaulting his French girlfriend. I understand that your friend is helping you with this. Yes, I shall take on the garden with my friend's help. Assault. Terrible that is. Yes, so you see, we don't want to get on the wrong side of him. He is French himself? Cowardly as that sounds. Well, no, you must be protective of yourself. Yes, these scum are beasts. Brutes they are. They are. He is English, but doesn't look English. Yes, he looks like a gypsy. We call them pikeys here. He's probably so. He has bad blood. Pikeys, gypsies, yes. Oh, I hear nothing good about them from others. Yes, he looks like those travelers we have here. The gypsies. We have hundreds of gypsies. They're probably concordant with the Mexicans here in the United States. From across Europe, yes, very much like the Mexicans. Hundreds? If yes, oh yes, maybe thousands. Oh my, they all want their human rights. Mexicans here are in the many, many millions. Though our country here is of course very much larger. They turned up where I work one week. Their human, God-given rights, never credible that proposition is of theirs. Such rights exist only in lawless, feral states. They peeled their potatoes on our front lawn and cleaned their teeth in the same water. This is a legal civilization that they are criminally a part of. Yes, dirty they are. They are all criminals. Mexicans and gypsies. Oh yes, indeed they are. Everything you say above is true. Yes, they will say that they possess inalienable rights. They left their toilet in our car park, broke fences, though again the rights are earned and not inherited universally. Oh, they do that all right. Oh yes, bad persons. Yes, they must prove themselves for us. Even stripped naked and sunbathed on the pavement outside my building. We do not universally grant every last person on this planet their citizenship a part of our countries. No, we don't. But they want it. There are clearly essences a part of countries, identities a part of them. The left wants to give them every right. There are abstract ideas possessing peculiar and distinct attributes, each of the countries. So true, you are right. Yes, with them, with liberal miscegenation and so forth, over the course of time, every last country loses its peculiar and distinct essences. They pay no taxes, but when they get into a fight, they want every free hospital treatment there is. Then becomes all countries altogether and for everlasting time one terrible inferior essence. Miscegenation is genocide. Our genocide. Yes, it is typical of inferiors, this behavior of theirs. They act feral and wild. He is feral. In the wild they are irrational. They are without understanding or sensibility. Good God, he removed his teeth in front of Itzcoat yesterday. They will act inhuman while they were talking. Disgusting, that is. So yes, he acts inhuman. He's only my age. Feral and disgusting. Yes, Westerners will come across the primitives with a part of their feral environment. An animal abuser too, I reckon. They all are. The primitives will act like animals around them, the Westerners. Yes, we should not have to live with such scum. They pack in group deadites, huddled together around themselves. They do not function individually or solitarily. They are incapable to do so. They are not and cannot be enlightened enough to do so, not wise enough. They are before the time such essence is to be obtained or comprehended. That is true. When they blow their darts at the Westerners, they do so with irrationality. Even so, with such acts, we don't know this substance. We are afraid of it. Attack it. So true. So bestial they are. You speak well. That is how we find them. 90% of people in the United Kingdom hate them. Yes, they remain attributable to such aforementioned time eras. No one wants them here. Yes, and they bring themselves to us, their feral identities, primitive, or we bring themselves to us ourselves. And they want every benefit. They're without ground or foundation here in the West. Adolf Hitler hated them. At the same time, they will say to us in America that we are without ground and foundation. I remember he said disgusting things, that North American soil is theirs, not that of ours, that we had stolen it or robbed it from them. Well, we were the stronger, and then we saw them at the same time having overrun Western Europa altogether. Survival of the fittest, which is clearly and clearly never has been that of their soil. That's right, it is not theirs. Yes, survival of the fittest it is. They say the land belongs to everyone. Also, were the Dark Ones practical to the same position that of which we were at the time of our territorial expansion to America, and that we were in their feral position, the Dark Ones would have clearly acted just the same as we had actually done so to them. Exactly. Our territorial expansion was inevitable to occur. We're thousands and thousands of years ahead of them. We are. Move over for us if you're not one of us. We did say to them once. We did say that. The slimy Christians chant against ourselves over time. And we were confident in the knowledge that we outstripped them in everything. We were the greatest race. We were confident of ourselves, yes. We knew it. We had seen it so evidently. Oh, the Christians did chant against us. It made us ashamed. We had sensed ourselves immediately in relativity to the perception of them, the others. Yes, the Christians, yes. We could see we were superior. Everywhere that Christianity manifests. Civilization that is attributable to it declines and falls into oblivion. This is so true, undeniable. What is more valuable is either the afterlife of our own present generation or the effortful work of posterity for the afterlife rewards of every subsequent following generation. We must affirm the latter. The latter, yes. The former, if affirmed, then our own present generation saves itself, but then the subsequent following generations of our own cannot save themselves. For the physical threshold standard environment has clearly fallen into disrepair and irrecoverable destruction and so forth. The offspring, the generations that follow us, must be fought for their preservation and for their afterlife rewards. I believe that is so. With Christian practice practical to statehood, nationhood, such preservation and afterlife rewards of the following generations do not obtain themselves. But then, is this life experience altogether only manifest during the self-subsistence life? That is, everything a part of this life experience can only begin from the self-subsistence's birth and end during the self-subsistence's termination, altogether of which then the life experience lasts not more than perhaps 70 or 80 or so years of time. The posterity and work for future generations is to be in vain and unnecessary. For the future generations themselves do not ever manifest here a part of this life experience, where the self-substance have then been terminated. If such direction is the case, the Christian ethics at least sound more credible or valid. Save only the present generation. Scrap and discard the future material destruction. How selfish that is! Ultimately! Indeed, the right answer, the right direction must be found and acquired. Though I sense that such right answer direction cannot ever be obtained or factually comprehended during this life experience at all, then which direction is best to affirm? Which direction senses the most rightly? If I were to affirm of myself over them, then I am saved. It is for someone such as you to find that answer, though then they destroy themselves afterward. If I were to affirm them over myself, then I am destroyed, though they are then saved afterward me. Countless millions of them will have been saved, billions of them, if not, but do these countless millions or billions of them afterward me ever manifest? What a question. Pascal's wager comes to mind right now. What thoughts? Is it better to believe that Christianity is true and affirm of its principles that such are true, rather than instead negate its principles and ultimately find the self in the hellfire afterward? I see. Whether or not that it is true, if it were true, then affirm of it clearly. But that sounds like fear. Hedging your bets just in case, right? It is a fearful wager. If the afterlife does not consist of either paradise or hell, if you believe in God, then surely you must know that He can see into your heart and know that you only do this out of self-preservation, not true faith. That you're safe assuredly whether or not that you affirm these religious principles. That's right. But if it does exist, though if it were true, and the subject did not believe, that he does not obtain merciful judgment from the then true God upon the subject's termination. He burns then eternally afterward. But then, you mentioned right. The substance acts for self-preservation. This act is right. Yes, I find the burning pit of hell to be quite off-putting for religion. Whether the activities of the self are destructive to the others. I can't understand why God made us with all those faults and doubts, and then punishes us for having them. That's probably too simplistic, of course. Well, I sense with the substance to be thrown away or cast away afterward the life experience, the merely eternal fire is the most sensible and logical punishment for the substance. For any other punishment would put the Creator to his creativity for the substance's punishment, which at that point the Creator thinks nothing of his condemned substance. Okay, I understand. That God creating his substances with faults and doubts. This life experience is a testing ground for His creation. Creation is conceived a part of here as experiment and trial. I give my creation His answers. Sounds a bit cruel, though. I do not think of Him as a loving God, a loving All-Father. I will give Him enough to know which way to turn. He will know which is the right path to choose from soon enough. He affirms of my principles, good, I shall save him. He negates of my principles, bad, I shall burn him. Sounds like God enjoys playing games. Oh yes, He is brutal. Not sure I like this God. It is a bad situation. It is, we are at the mercy of a creator, than which we ultimately do not like him. True, though he reveals himself as truthful. True for you because you believe this to be so. What can we ever do to sidestep him? As do many others. Yes. And who am I to say it isn't? Well, I try everything that I can everything that I can do to overcome this understanding or perspective of him. Some of the time, it appears that I have done so. Most of the time, it appears that I have not done so. But then again, I sense that mankind is ultimately in no position to know rightly or to validate the knowledge of the afterlife. If this is the case as such, then we must act according to this principle. What proceeds then afterward, acting according to this essentially agnostic principle? What are the correct attributable ethics to this? Simply do not mention the afterlife, though retain and preserve good sentiments. It is a huge question problem. It seems obvious we were to spend our time pondering such things. Just in case the afterlife were proposed true as such from earlier. Perhaps we're not meant to know. Yes, to spend our time pondering these things, indeed. Or perhaps the truth of our beginnings have been destroyed by fire, or human wanton destruction. Sumerian texts. Oh yes, I understand by fire. The great library at Alexandria. Yes. Maybe therein lay the key to the truth. Oh yes, indeed, that extraordinary library of antiquity. Therein lay the key. Perhaps it was otherwise than we have always thought it to be. Yes, sadly, it was the Christians that burnt it to the ground. Oh, and perhaps it was a good truth, pleasant to our ears, to our knowledge. Yes, the Christians were responsible for its destruction. Indeed, jealous they were, perhaps. They destroyed so much enlightenment. Tricksters, betrayers, indeed. Yes, sadly, and now we shall never know. They are vengeful against the truth. Forever they are. Yes, it was a tragedy. Well, we certainly pondered this knowledge to its depth here and now, and even still we do not arrive at or obtain the right answer and direction. No, we can't. How could we ever go further than this? There are many Sumerian texts still decipherable. Knowledge is forever incomprehensible to us. They give a fascinating insight into our origins. Here I am at the beginning, General of the Dunya, and the world altogether knows of it, and feels of it. Final, kaput. God as such. Final, kaput. Always. Final, kaput. Still decipherable, yes. Sumer. Oh, what a civilization that was. It was. It had extraordinary knowledge. That was a civilization primarily so. Oh, indeed. The founders of the state, the nationhood, the law, the guardianship, the security of mankind against the wild and feral condition. Heroic and noble, everlastingly so. Heroic and noble, yes. The difficulty of them to accomplish such task was a timeless and eternal feat of worth and reverence. It was. No man in his right state of mind enjoys or desires to affirm of the wild, that nasty, brutish, primitive, and short-lived condition. The Sumerians acted rightly. You're so right. The Sumerians were incredible. The Sumerians were indeed incredible, astounding. It is very deeply interesting subjects. They were, and had such knowledge. Oh yes, explore the civilization of Sumer. Over time, we must do so ourselves. I should love to explore that. Yes, the both of us shall love to explore it. Yes, wonderful. Its subject matter shall forever be held a part of our admiration and respect. You in your intellectual way, and me in my way, puffing and running up behind. Oh, it does not matter to me. Ha ha. How sadistic that sounds. But you're so close to me, right behind me always. No, that's not sadistic, that's lovely. I'm always there. August 11, 20 to 13. Eight to 14, 20 to 13. 4 thoughts. I understand that I will have become physically terminated at the state of condition that Wagner himself and the various few other substances similarly identifiable to him will have been physically terminated at the state of condition that was a part of them. that will have become known forever by the other substances as such, and as is that of their own peculiar and distinct state of condition. My own soul, personality, identity will have become known and forever identifiable with the other substances with hatred, dislike, contempt, and so forth. While on the other hand, the music and some of the other qualities attributable to my life work will have become known forever with exceptional beautifulness, splendor, chilling depth and magnificence, wonder, awe, reverence, amazement. This state of condition is ultimately necessary to have been come about, and I leave the reverence and admiration of my own soul, person, identity to that of the very few truly legitimate other individuals and some bodies themselves that will subsequently, with eternal blessing, thankfulness, and gratitude, understand me and correspond and comprehend me, my own soul, person, identity, and so forth, with everlasting affectionateness, with understandable agreements. This entire proposition is in accordance with the notion that the precedent life experience extends afterward and onward, and preserves itself invariably so in subsequence to the physical termination of my own life manifestation. The other animate substances altogether, every last one of them, is an inclusion to that of the transcendental and immaterial animate substances as well, the latter most especially. So these substances are forever naive, and manifest with bird-like attributes and innocent qualities. Their essences, as follows accordingly over to the Creator himself, his very essence that is himself, although his very essence that is his himself. Although the Creator is ultimately responsible and accountable for the activity and the movement and so forth of every last one of the other life experience animate substances, he and the other animate substances altogether are unfortunately chosen and decided to play dumb in relativity to the volition of the self-substance. This behavior manifests very strongly in relativity to the transparent and immaterial angel guardianship of which stations itself and watches over it and records, affirmatively or negatively, each and every activity and movement of the self-substance altogether. The Creator himself, although the deepest and the most profound and intelligent aspect of his volition, clearly perceives and comprehends the willed intentions and the actual consequences of the self-substance, though for most of all the time, here a part of this life experience, the Creator himself, his volition, he decides and chooses to act with characteristic naivety, ignorance, senselessness, foolishness, and so forth, just as his life experience animate substances almost perpetually and with customary habit and tradition associate their essences with themselves. These misfortunate, poor, foolish, negative, and barren attributes and qualities and identities, if in order to give the apparent sinfully and viciously deceptive impression that they are without knowledge or comprehension of the ultimate consequences of the self-substance's activity and volition. They know precisely that what it is that he intends to do, and that what he does, though they will behave with cowardice and ignobility, and ultimately he will mark him, his volition and activity, and so forth, and all the way through each and every step and process of his own, of the self-substance's own intentions and motivations. They and he, scrapping entirely altogether the ultimate and final cause consequences, even though the ultimate and final cause consequences are the abstractions clearly to be affirmed, and the intentions of the process in between the arrival of the final cause consequences are not at all essential to the work and labor of the substance himself. Ultimately, the intentions in the process disappears from precedence at the end, and only the consequence itself remains precedence. Though the various other animate substances are vicious and hostile to him, innately and archetypally so, they will grasp this mischievous opportunity of theirs and then exploit to the fullest extent possible the self-substances, unfortunate accidents and mistakes along the way. The self-substance himself is naturally and innately innocent and gentle, kind and soft, naive, gullible, weak, small, and frail, playfully so with intelligence, and playfully so with wisdom. With a natural naivety, he expects the other substances to identify with him, with his playful and positive intellect. Though over the course of time, he slowly but assuredly recognizes and contemplates the other poor and barren substances for what they are, that is, without essentially every one of the qualities and attributes out of which the self-substance predicates himself to, the qualities and so forth that were generally aforementioned above. The recognition of these other poor and barren enslaved and torturous substances, understandably brings the self-substance over to extreme despair and absolute alienation, loneliness, and isolation to himself. How could he have been so great, so much better than them, these others, and not to have known or recognized this glaring dichotomy between himself and essentially the entire world itself altogether? To play it hopeful with the very false and mistaken imagination that any of the other zeros and nobodies were all likable to him or identifiable to him. The self-substance experience is the most painful and the most undesirable of all possible lives and manifestations. Sensibly so and strongly so, because the glaring dichotomy and glaring recognition of between himself, these essentially altogether zero value and desolate other nobodies. The essential volition of the creator is most strongly tied in together with the self-substance. Understandably then, the remainder of the creator's essential volition spares itself for the other substances. This remainder of the essential volition can manifest only so much potency and vitality. There's hardly not enough in store for them, for these other poor, desolate, barren nobodies. The life experience is altogether manifest with the perpetual comprehension and recognition of the very last moment and divisible incident attributable to the life of the self-substance. Every last activity and interaction with the other substances and so forth is forever and perpetually done so, with the recognition and intention to bring about the final cause, qualities, and attributes, the final cause, essence of the self-substance into precedent manifestation. From the very first moment of the self-substance's birth, conception, to the very last moment upon the self-substance's death and physical termination, the other substances, through the volition of the creator and the up above transcendental administrations and so forth, are working and laboring tirelessly, relentlessly, with perfect volition, intention, and determination in order to bring the self-substance to its very final end, as determined and necessitated, desirably so, by the volition of the creator up above, and the administrations up above, and so forth. The self-substance himself enacts his life experience as though reading and performing a musical score. He must play the notes of the composition as they're all ready to have been written, with his independent volition. His volition alone is independent and freely capable of independent activity here, a part of the life experience. His independent volition, when in manifest activity, is attributable to the mistakes that he will make when playing this instrumental musical score alone. He gives his life experience a public performance, and were he to depart from his musical instrument and walk away from the others, he will be booed upon and jeered against. Ultimately, then, he cannot do so. The consequence will be terminal and eternally undesirable to him. The creator is strongly affected and interested by grade activity, as though the self-substance's performance and deeds were to have been graded characteristically and customarily by the creator. Similarly to the educational school systems materialistically known a part of the life experience. The systems such as A, A-, and so forth, B, C, D, and F, attributable to the performance and the various deeds that the self-substance over the course of time experiences and does. The ultimate final cause and of the self-substance is forever concealed from the knowledge of the self-substance by the will and the volition of the others. They are in perfect comprehension and recognition of this final cause and, though they are ruled and legislated and regulated by the will and the volition of the creator up above, and so forth, not to reveal the knowledge of the final cause and, nor to apprehend or imagine themselves the final cause and knowledge of the self-substance himself, nor to the self-substance himself. The self-substance himself understands and comprehends the essential knowledge of the final cause movement of his life experience from time to time. He is bestowed with enough knowledge beforehand by the volition of the creator in order to obtain the specific kind of knowledge by means of his own volition. The final cause and, at this point in time's duration, appears to the self-substance to manifest exceedingly negative, desolate, barren, and isolated qualities in relativity to himself and between him and the other dead and zeroed out negative substances. The self-substance develops sharpness and great finesse, nobleness, worthiness, and so forth, of physique and metaphysique. Though again he remains ever the more further barren, desolated, and emptied, and isolated from the others. Continuously so, increasingly so, ever the more maddeningly so. Ever the more maddeningly so. Again, the life experience of the self-substance is understandably the most painful of all possible manifestations to experience. This is as it has to be for whatever reasoning or necessity that had beforehand this life experience
brought this life experience itself about into present manifestation. When the self-substance is to have become physically terminated, then every last one of the other animate substances and the other inanimate substances too, of course, altogether, are to become vanished, subtracted, disappeared, negated themselves away, never to have been seen again, but what lies beyond the threshold of this present life experience. This vanishing of the other inanimate substances attributes to that of every last one of the other substances known and experienced part of this present life experience. The miscellaneous human town square substances, the birds and the beasts, the trees and the stones, the waterbeds and the lakes, the friendships of the self-substance, the family relatives of the self-substance, as well as the companionships of the self-substance, altogether are to become vanished, subtracted, disappeared, and negated themselves away upon the then present physical termination of the self-substance. What other substances that lie beyond the self-substance experience are that of the remnants, the reminiscences, the derivatives. Also, moreover, the final cause apprehensions and imaginations of them, the most personal and intimate and close at hand substances known here are part of the present life experience. Where the self-substance have been judged affirmatively, particularly so or universally so, to gain access into the paradise up above, that whole new palette or collection or manifestation of animate substances awaits for him. The self-substance, somehow attributable to that of the animate substances themselves, found down here a part of the precedent life experience, especially so that of the family relationship substances and the companionship substances, as well as that of the friendship substances. They seem to take significance and designation again to the subsequent physical termination of the self-substance, powerfully and eternally so. Again and afterward, the self-substance transition and transformation into the everlasting and perpetual afterlife. August 14, 20 to 13.
Eight, 15, 20 to 13. I'm not doing well. I did not head out to any trail yet. Oh dear, feeling low. I'm not doing good. I'm in tears right now, actually. Looking back on reading conversations with Embla. I was reading Mimner's conversations with me. Oh no. Tors! Darling Odin, have you had a row with Embla? No row with Embla. There's nothing here. There's nobody! Oh, Odin. In person, in public, I do not even speak or use my voice to others anymore. Other persons have become understood and contemplated to me for what they are. They're bird-like, animal-like. Do you speak to your companions at the house? They're inferior and subhuman, inferior to me, every last one of them. Ah, yes, so they are for the most part. The comprehension of this is the most depressing feeling imaginable, every last one of them. Why don't you pick up the phone when you can't speak to Embla or ask? Like birds, naive, senseless. Have some human interaction. I do not know why I do not do so. My life is coming so close to finishing. I sense this very strongly. It is not good what becomes of me afterward. There's reasoning for all this taking occurrence, for all this desolation, the most painful desolation imaginable. There's no good reason for it taking occurrence, however. I'm sorry you're suffering like this. He conceived this life experience through his means. He is incorrect and undesirable to affirm, though he is the master. I'm helplessly subordinated to him, whether I fight against him or not. The other substances are his zeros, his nobodies. He likes them. He likes his zeros and nobodies. Satan. He does not like the individuals and the somebodies, knowledge seekers. Satan becomes jealous if such is the case, wrathful against us. Satan knows that his psychology is fallible, mistaken, and shallow. Knowledge gathers by us. We see our creations inferior for what they are. Oh, goodness. Satan punishes the Platos and their Aristotles, even though there's no good reasoning for his doing so. I've known you in this mood before. There's nothing I can say that will lift your spirits. I can only read your words. I know. I'm not desirous of speaking much more of this. If I were to do so, who else is worthy, other than you, in a very small handful of others, to obtain these words of mine?
There's so little desire in me to obtain knowledge and to especially share it to these other inferiors. You should be surrounded by such people. I should be. He will not surround me with them. Altogether on an island. This is clear and evident, surrounded by knowledge and understanding of your knowledge. He will not conceive them for me. This is Adam speaking. Final kaput. Not surrounded by fools. This life experience is his, God, Yahweh's perfect trap for me. Adam. So, final kaput. Final kaput. He could have manifested in ancient Greca. He knows that I would have liked this. He does not bless me. Yes, he will never do that so to me. He does not establish bond or oath or covenant with me. He does so with the inferiors. It is so terrible for you. The poor and the barren are blessed. The sick are blessed to him. It is strange. It is strange. It is despicable of him. He is the sole and singular tyrant. You would think you would bless and love his exalted ones, the superior. I would think so, indeed, yes. I cannot imagine why this is not so. He will not do so, for we, the exalted ones, are in knowledge of him. It is a cruel game he plays. He is not great or grandiose. Well then, perhaps he knows he has weakness. His life experience is not infinite of measurement or limitless of enumeration. It does not want to be found out. Indeed, as you say, perfectly true and reasonable for his despicable behavior. There are only 10 categories a part of this life experience, as such are somewhat more or less. I'm reminded of the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, indeed. I had contemplated this very film character of his just earlier today. Really? He desires to manifest grandiosity. Behind his illusion is a bare and cheap, inexpensive simplicity and so forth. We affirm knowledge. We find this out about him, that he is wrathful and jealous and vengeful against us. Could be. I and so very few others are superior in intelligence to him. The angels, the immaterial substances, are not superior to us few specific humans. The humans altogether are capable of surpassing the immaterial, transcendental substances' intelligences, clearly and as easily so. They manifest perpetually and are forever ignorant and naively obedient to his seemingly innate and archetypal principles. I've done this relatively to them by this point in time. They watch and record me forever and tirelessly. Forever and tirelessly. They see me tirelessly and forever here. They're perpetually naive and bound. They're perpetually but naive and bound to their foolish, ignorant, senseless, naive natures. The vast majority of mankind themselves are manifest with these infantile, bird-like animal qualities. Ultimately, every thought that I have is in diametrical opposition to them, to both the up above and the down below. I do not like either one of them. They both are infantile of intelligence and so forth. The up above is somewhat more refined, Odin, though hardly at all worthy of me and some few other human substances. I wish he did not have this weighing on you. It does weigh so heavily. I'm helpless to him. Such thoughts, with such gravitas. He himself is not much. I can only destroy myself from hereafter. I'm helpless to help you, darling. It is as though the immaterial guardianship merely marks the remainder out of me. Negatively so, until the end. By now, even Embla and Ask are behind all this, controlled as puppetry and agency by the up above, down below. I have no answer for this. Even Embla knows my destination. Even she is removing herself slowly but assuredly from me. Anybody else that cares about me is helpless against this legislation of his. You thought that before, but she came back to you in a most loving way. This is the reason for such complete and total desolation of me. Perhaps we are all helpless in the face of such an entity. All the others are helpless against him. Yes, I believe so. He rules like Oz of that film. He is not great or grandiose. He's despicable. The superior humans do not like him. It pains me to know you're so troubled. It is painful indeed. It is. He does very little to comfort me. He is not on my side. If I could wash it all away, I would. I am on your side. I could do nothing except be on your side. If you could do so, I would rejoice at you everlastingly ever the more. Everlastingly ever the more. I know. Yes, you yourself are forever on my side. I wish I had the power to cleanse you of all of this. You can be on my side. Through all of this, what is to become of me? I wish you had so too. I think you're stronger than you think. I believe you're quite powerful. I know that I'm very strong and mighty. That I'm quite powerful and mighty. You are right. I believe you can transcend all of this. He dislikes these qualities. Somehow I will try to transcend all this, overcome him. I think you can transcend his dislike. Yes, transcend his dislike. I can educate him. Somehow. Fuck. I believe so. The key is there within you. I can reteach his principles. His understanding of such principles. The power and the ability to fight it. Yes, fight his errors. Fight his fallacies. I will overcome him. Indeed. At last I'm determined to do so. You are the overman. The overman. Oh, Nietzsche, you're blessing to me. Yes, you are. I believe all I have said above. I think it is clear. I believe you. I agree with you. That you are great. Until the end. August 15, 2013.